Oops, that was not intentional, just in case that wasn't obvious. Hey, Rani here. Shall we make a game? Right, last time, I was working on kind of like an NC component system and added like the idea of what I called like an advanced component, which allows you to do something every frame. And just off stream, I finished that off. So today, I'm going to put on some loud music that you can't hear just so I don't mumble. That is a big problem for me. Where is it? What are we going for? You can see any of this. Where's Neon Shudder? Neon Shudder's probably pretty good, right? We can probably go for some of that. That seems fitting for what we're making. Yeah, haven't listened to this in a while. Okay, so yeah, next thing we kind of need to do is our sort of basic animation system. So we're going to kind of like a flipbook approach. So let's flip back to our code. First thing I'm going to do is, I built this struct earlier for an animation. And the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get rid of this. So I've got like a number of poses, and then I've got the actual mesh for each pose. I also had in here the kind of like height of the, how high off the ground the look target was. So like roughly where the character's head would be. So if they were crouched, it'd be lower. I'm going to get rid of that. And the reason I'm going to get rid of that is that animations are not just for characters. They're also going to be for background objects. Okay, that's a nice simple commit. Okay, next thing I need to do is get onto the timer queue. Now, I did have this thing last time of a bit of a problem in that it was possible to edit the timer queue while you're working on it. So the advanced callback queue while you're working on it. And my kind of like workaround for this has been to actually make the loop iterator a global variable, and then when you're deleting, it's actually able to manipulate the loop slightly so that it continues, it ends up in the right place. That's not really going to be possible if you can also insert. So my timer queue is going to be different to this, in that the timer queue is actually going to be pre-sorted. Whenever you add an item to the queue, it's going to add it to the right position so it can keep running like from beginning to end. And when it reaches the first item that hasn't yet been fired, it can quit out the whole loop. So timer component, that's what we'll call it, timer component. And I'm doing a lot more find replace. I think I can safely go, I can safely do a find replace here, right? Which is being timed. Yeah, some of this is going to need rewording though. Call it after a timer runs out. A timer has fired. And we also need to take in a number of advances until the timer should fire. Okay. What we're going to do for kind of a timeout value, we'll just use an unsigned 32-bit int that I'll probably do. Okay. And I'm thinking I'm not going to copy this at all because that's the root to errors, and the actual logic in this is going to be very different, I think. Get rid of the comments, and then we're going to start filling in these function bodies in just a minute. Now, timers are going to be cancelable because you can delete the component. Let's import everything we need for these to work. And of course we need the header for what we're making. Next up, you go to the main advanced thing in here. Now, I'm not quite sure whether these should go before or after advanced components. I'm going to put them after, because I'm thinking that timers are quite often going to change state. And so, for example, they might make something start moving, and you would probably not want, you know, their effect to have like a frame of computation immediately afterwards. You probably want to have like them start moving, and then the frame after, that's when they actually start moving, right? So that makes sense to me. I think there's arguments for both ways, but that makes some sense to me. So the next thing we need to do is actually create our component, and that's going to be very, very similar to what we already have, except whereas the advanced components, because the ordering didn't really matter on that sort of like list of callbacks, we need to actually put this in the right place. So we need to go for the list, and if we find the end of the list, we'll put it on the end. But if we find something that's going to come later than we are, put it there. Yeah, so we're going to want the number of them, which probably name this to kind of like match what we have in here. What else are we going to do? Yeah, kind of the callbacks as well. And we need to link them back to component IDs. Now we can't use this trick here. I'm probably going to have to make a separate copy of this information, which is annoying at the time of iterating through it, just so you can't misorder it. I think I'm thinking roughly how many timers we're going to have going at a time. We might have, say, like, 2 to 3 characters on screen. Each one of those is going to have its own timer. We might have as many as 5 animated objects in the scene. So we're probably looking at about 10. There's actually quite a lot of data to copy around each frame, but I don't see how else we're really going to do it. We'll just need to be able to mark them as kind of like, deleted, so it doesn't try to run them if you delete them mid-iteration. It always gets messy whenever you have the ability to kind of like remove stuff in the middle of iteration. I think C# actually makes it kind of like, so if you try it, throws an exception generally. Okay. So yeah, rather than using the current count, what we need to do is we need to increment. No, I'll increment afterwards. What the heck? Timer component index. Go to the end of the ones we've created. And then we need to, compare this, whatever's in this array, to whatever we're looking at here. Okay, so this is the bit that's actually going to be, this bit's really simple. This bit is just, just putting data in there. We sort of define the structure at some point. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make kind of like an equivalent of memmove, but it's going to do all of the arrays at once. So you can use that to kind of like shift things backwards and forwards as appropriate. So move, I guess, is probably a good way of putting it. And it's always going to be moving them right to the end of the array, I think. Yeah. Ah. So I just need to specify where it's moving it from, where it's moving it to. Just think about this. This doesn't actually make any sense to do, because the logic is actually slightly different depending on whether you're inserting or whether you're deleting. It needs to go in an opposite direction. So it's not actually going to be the same code anyway. Yeah, it seemed like a good idea on paper, but I don't think it's actually going to be a win. So yeah, let's start off by moving everything from the current record onwards. Ah! Just thinking about this, just having a bit of a think about this. Yeah, it's the one after, isn't it? This is part people usually make mistakes with the last line effect, as they call it, which is where if you have something repetitive, you always make a mistake on the last one every time. That's probably good. Okay, so with that kind of sorted, the next thing we need to do is move through the list in order from begin to end. Whenever this is basically so that the sort of main loop can tell this timer queue it needs to kind of look for the first event and run it. But as mentioned earlier, this gets a bit more complicated as the as this could actually be removing stuff or adding removing stuff from or adding stuff to it. So I was just thinking, is there like a nice way of doing this? Because if I was thinking, because dealing with additions is easy enough. You can just take a copy of the current queue. However, where it gets more complicated is removals, because I was thinking maybe I can keep like a list of, just basically bools that are initially all false. And then whenever you delete one, you set the equivalent bool to true, and then the kind of loop knows, the kind of loop through knows, hey, something has come in and deleted that timer that you had in the queue. But the indices won't match up because we'll be shuffling it down at that point. How am I going to deal with this? So ideally, I wouldn't just be making a copy of the entire thing and running them all, because you might delete them during run. And it's not like the IDs that we have are unique, not really. That idea I had is not going to work. I guess everything needs to be able to. Oh my god! So yeah, I need to take basically the same approach I've taken here, where the loop indices are actually in the are actually global variables, and whenever you insert or remove an item, it actually needs to manipulate this loop. So I'm actually just going to steal this code here. It should be exactly the same. Right, yes. Place the wrong word. Do that a lot, actually. Yeah, so part of the reason I do this here, like normally you'd kind of put this, increment up here. The reason I come do that is that we need to retrieve all the information. We need to make the call first, but then actually call the timer after we've incremented, because this could very well do all sorts of nonsense to the loop indices. It could push us forwards, push us backwards. It could do all sorts of stuff. Right. So I'm just having to really think about this because this is this is complex. I'm going to need a second loop actually, just to decrement the remaining timers. Right, that will probably work. Okay, so if we have any time left on the timer, just quit. I also need to decrement as well. I forget. No, I just forget. Well, putting a minus there, I mean, it kind of like decrements it and then returns the value, but I'm like, I think it will, but I'm just gonna make it an explicit separate step. Just because I like having statements not embedded in expressions. I think that's always really confusing. And I'm sure if there's an optimization to be made there, the compiler will make it. The next complication here is that actually executing this timer should also remove it from the queue. So it needs to not increment actually. God, that gets really complicated. All right, so yeah, we extract all the information we need, and then I need to move the queue down by 1. So there are actually multiple places I need to remove an item from the queue. So yeah, I'm gonna make that a reasonable function for sure. We'll figure that out later on though. For now, we'll just leave that as a to-do. So this kind of thing always gets really complicated, it really does. But I don't think there's much of a way around it. And the destructor will actually just call into there with the... yeah, it'll just call... The destructor will actually just turn the component ID into a timer component ID and then call that remove on it. Should be good. If this works first time, I will actually eat my non-existent hat. I will model a hat and then eat it. Okay, so we need to search for the queue and we need to find the timer component that has the component ID we're after. I could theoretically have built the timer queue on top of the advanced queue. Wouldn't have been anywhere near as efficient, I don't think, but I could have done it theoretically speaking. Okay, that's looking good. Then we go for the remaining timers and we count them down a bit just so they continue to tick, even if we're not actually running them, even if we're not actually checking if we need to execute them, we're still counting them down. So next up, what are we doing next? Oh yeah, creating a timer needs to adjust the loop variables. So yeah, if the index we're inserting it at is at or before the current loop index, we need to push them forwards one to stop the main loop trying to process the time we've just added, because it should be any process for the next frame. And we need to extend the length out so it knows to keep going at what used to be the end of the list to catch the final item. Yeah. God, this gets complicated. Speaking of complicated, now we have to figure this nonsense out. So again, if we're removing the one that we're at, if we're removing the one that we're at, the one before the one we're at, yeah, if it's the one before the one we're at, yeah, something to think about that. We need to shift the iteration down one. We also need to go through all of the items in the queue after the one we're in and move them down one. So I've got this subsequent loop here, we can use that again. And I'm going to reduce the length here so it's all ready to go. Will that work? No idea, to be perfectly honest. No idea at all. Let's find out. So if I go into script test, at the moment I've got this bit in here that basically just advances the advances the state. So if I get rid of that, advanced logic, I have to get rid of these as well. And I do a make. It didn't like that. Oh, because I haven't imported, of course. And then, again, a missing import. See here, it's all got really jumbled up. It's just like bits of this, just like random words sort of stuck together. It's just because I'm running all the jobs in parallel. All their output is kind of like just crashing into one another. So I want to bring in the error helper too. Now we've got something that should be impossible here. Should be. No. It is possible. It is possible. Right, so yeah, the warning actually the error caught something I've missed there, which is if you get to the end of this function and you've been through all the list, you found no items in the queue that need to come after you, you need to put it onto the end. So that's simple enough. It's basically just a copy of this, but we're using the current length of the queue as the index and then incrementing it at the end. Might have been able to reuse this as this, but probably not worth the effort. Right, are you ready for the crash? I'm ready for the crash. Well, it shouldn't do anything at all first time round because we haven't told the test script to actually execute this new logic. So yeah, the guy's going to stay perfectly stock still. So let's put this back in. Let's bring in the timer queue rather than the advanced queue. And after 60 frames, so exactly a second, at our current sort of cadence, it should. Let's make the rotation really obvious as well. Okay, didn't fail to compile, it's promising. It's done nothing. This is quite often the worst kind of bug to try and fix because I really need to get rid of that keyboard shortcut. It keeps messing me up so much. Yeah, this is the worst kind of bug to fix because, well, how do you fix it doing nothing? So I guess the first thing we can do is have a look in here and see whether is it getting to here? Yeah, is it definitely actually looking at the queue? Yes, it's definitely getting things. Sorry, 1 second. So yeah, we know it's definitely putting things into the queue because it's hitting that. Next, is it ever actually timing out? No, it's never timing out. That's our issue. So it's definitely decrementing it. So it should be hitting 0. I'm definitely copying a value across, aren't I? Yep, I'm definitely copying a value across. I've definitely given it a valid value here. Yep. How could that always be truthy? Let's just check the behavior when it does go down that branch. Okay, we've got an index out of bounds, that's good. So yeah, we're definitely not hitting this branch for some reason. I just realized these are backwards, so I was just thinking about this. I was like, I don't remember swapping these around. Turns out I didn't. And this also needs to be backwards as we are working from... That's right, we're working from kind of the end of the queue. We're kind of shuffling them down, so we need to... Hang on, try to work this out in my head. Yeah, we need to move from earliest to latest, meaning that the insert might actually be backwards. Yeah, it is. So that might be one of our issues if we've got a backwards insert in there, but I don't think that's it. No, that's not it. Hmm. The annoying thing is we don't really have any kind of means of debugging this. We know it's working its way for the queue, and it's definitely going to be decrementing a number. The question is, why is it never hitting 0? And we know it's definitely inserting into the queue. Oh, I just realized I didn't swap that to a decrement. Oops. Again, that's not going to be breaking things. This will only happen if we have multiple items in the queue, which we are going to start having, hopefully by the end of the stream, hopefully. So yeah, nothing. What could possibly be causing this? What could possibly be causing this? I've actually just spotted the bug. Oh, sorry. And I think I know what's going on. So, it's actually decrementing the first item twice. Because we're decrementing it, checking, and then we're breaking out. We don't actually want to... Do we want to decrement it though? Let's decrement it. Let's pre-decrement it up here. Okay, it crashed after a second. That means something actually happened. So next up we have an index out of bounds. Let's try and figure out where that was. So we have this bit here where it's calling into the kind of callback with the... Let's just get rid of all this. Actually, no, it can't be any of this. You know, the past invalid doesn't really matter. Let's see what's going on here. If I get rid of the actual call, is it, say, calling a null pointer or something? No, it's not. It's something else. That's interesting. That's kind of unexpected. So it must be this timer remove. Must be this, right? Can't really be anything else. Let's just get rid of that, see what happens. Yeah, it's removing the timer from the queue that's causing the issues. So, which part of this is causing the problem? Yes, this is moving for the list from the one that we've removed, and it's moving through to the end, and then it's copying down from the next one to the previous one, meaning that it should be overwriting on the way down. And we've decremented. Why is that going wrong? Oh, something's just occurred to me, you know. Something kind of ugly. I need to put a note in here to do kind of deal with it. Is that you might end up adding an item halfway through the queue. Yeah. If adding an item ahead of us, and we're iterating, add one advance. Yeah, that'll do. And we can probably get rid of the dynamically adjusted length. Yeah, okay, that works. This will probably not fix anything. No. Oh, hang on, I've frozen up Firefox. This isn't good. A crash. So I should comment all of this out. I'm actually going to make it. That would be a good idea. I've got that thing on where I have to use every variable. Most of these warnings and errors are actually really, really useful. That one's just annoying, honestly. Okay, and then it enters an infinite loop. That's actually a good sign because it's not crashing during that infinite loop. The issue is definitely in here. So this part of the loop shouldn't actually be doing anything. There shouldn't be any subsequent items to actually remove. It should be starting at 0. This should go down to 0, and then it should be trying to remove the item as... Yeah, it should be trying to remove the item at 0. Oh my god, I need to get rid of that keyboard shortcut, it's so annoying. And I've frozen my browser, great. I did make it, didn't I? Yes, I did. It looks like reducing the length of the array isn't actually doing anything. I need to do that in all. I need to actually reduce the array length as being iterated in all cases, not just if we're kind of like within the list, and do the same there. Right, okay, that might have fixed our bug. As I was kind of shuffling the list of callbacks, but then not actually changing the length of it to match. Okay, I think I saw a pixel move after a second. I did, there it is. Am I misremembering? Is this... Hang on, where is it? Is this actually in degrees? No, it isn't, it's in radians. Yeah, it's definitely in radians. Maybe I just happened to pick a nice round number that happened to be like a... Oh, that couldn't have been, say, like a... 0.7 radians would be like... There's no way that'd be like a full rotation, or like a small enough rotation any single pixel would shift. Have I somehow done this in degrees and not even realized I've done it? That's entirely possible. The pixel definitely moves after like a second. But only one. Sort of weird. Why would that happen? I wonder if it might just be rounding. I know why. It's because I'm incrementing the angle after I've used it. And then I'm not calling this again, so it's not actually rotating. There we go. So that's our timer executing after 0.7 seconds and rotating the object. So just thinking about this, how am I going to do this? It feels kind of weird that both of these would be greater than equals, but I guess they are. I'm just thinking about the cases, it must be. So basically I'm adding if you're adding an item later in the queue than we've currently iterated to, I'm adding an extra frame of delay on it, just so it doesn't execute a frame early. And I need to copy that down to here. The argument for actually making this reusable is starting to rear its head. Let's just do that. Pull that out of there. Okay, that still appears to work. So let's see what happens if we set another timer to go after. So I'm going to bring that number of radians back in. This is going to test what happens if we add back to the queue while we're oh, I just realized something I've gone done wrong here. It's not actually deleting the components. We're going to run out of components if we leave this running long enough. It should. Oh my god, it actually appears to be working. Now, if I leave this running for, say, a minute, it will actually run out of components because it's not actually deleting them. It's deleting the timer queue item that they back onto, but it's not deleting the component itself. So we're going to here, rather than removing from the queue here, I actually want to be deleting the component instead. So the best way of doing this. Have brought in the component. Yeah, I have. So it's kind of weird that you're destroying the component and executing the callback on it first, but it does make sense, I swear. Oh yeah, I never put this back in, did I? In any case, this is no longer reusable code. Well, reused code, so it can just go in here instead. Oh, there you go. The component queue actually ran out of components off screen. Okay, so I'm just going to speed this up a bit just so I can make sure this is definitely cleaning up resources. Then I'm going to stick on another layer of that album. There we go. So this appears to be cleaning up the component queue now, given it's, well, not crashed yet. So the next thing is I need to be able to put this back in to make it actually, you know, fill the queue back in. Things are going to get interesting when we have multiple animating objects. So now that we've kind of like shown we actually have a timer queue, I'm just going to commit that as is, even though I know it's probably got bugs. Yeah, it has at least one bug that we're aware of. And next up, we need to actually, I'm actually going to Blender quickly, and I'm actually going to animate a background object. How about the curtains? The curtains are going to animate. I'm going to have them kind of like here. After the window's open, they're going to be kind of like flapping around. So let's do that. And I'm going to do the two curtains individually just so they can animate individually. It might make it look a bit less stilted. Yeah, and I'm basically going to make a copy of the model for each kind of like frame of animation. So when it's blowing in a breeze, it's going to be kind of like out here. Obviously, it can't push through the armchair, and it's bent at the top, so it's going to be kind of like flapping a bit like that. Maybe rotate the base slightly just so it kind of like doesn't intersect the chair. And then we're going to make a copy of that. There's unfortunately going to be basically no preview of how this looks in Blender because Blender doesn't really have like well, not at least not the way I'm doing it. It doesn't really have kind of like a flipbook animation system. Okay, so let's select those three and the base, and export as OBJ again. Compartment, and we made that preset last time. Oh, you guys can't see this. Okay, now we've exported our objects, and yeah, come to here. I should be able to import that model I just made. It's called left curtain breeze A. And left curtain breeze B. Yeah, this should be easy. Now, I'm going to build the animation system a bit later on where we can basically just make an array of them and it'll deal with all the timings for us. For now, this will do. So I think we had a, yeah, we have a callback to set a mesh. So easy enough. Basically just going to have two of these functions, each of which kind of calls into the next one using a timer. I'm going to set it on a different length to the protagonist rotating, so we should get like a good idea of like the potential error cases. Let's go with something like really crazy, like 27. Yeah, we're going to put kind of flapping between the two. Like that. And then we're just going to create a curtain. And I do plan on basically like scripting all the cutscenes and stuff in C like this. It just feels like an honestly really neat way of doing it. If you have these like really simple high level functions, it's actually not that different than using a normal scripting language. Okay, let's see what that does. Ah, good. It crashes, my favorite. Ah, it's because I haven't actually declared this at the point of that. That's fair. Yeah, a bit annoying that you need forward declaration, but not the end of the world. Ah, and also we need to unpack the, because we're importing an object, we need to unpack it because it could be a factory in the case of like a development build. Okay. Let's see what this does. It crashes. Woohoo! Sorry, I promise I'm going to remove that damn keyboard shortcut at some point. It crashes, which is news, I guess. Let's try it with just the one loop in. Just make sure we haven't done something monumentally stupid, which is entirely possible, I guess. Right, there's our animation. So that's nice and simple. So yeah, let's get them both working at the same time now. So this is the first time we've hit this code where it can, so it's going to be queuing stuff after this because we're adding the 10 first and then we're going to the 27. So what error do we actually get? I don't remember what the integer overflow behavior is in a Wasm environment, but I think it's pretty, I seem to remember it actually errors, which is kind of weird. Like as, I think, I'd need to look this up, I think it has like the C# style safe overflow where it just crashes rather than doing undefined behavior stuff. I think, but I could be wrong. So It's doing something wrong. The whole thing's going to be telling what at this point because there's a lot of complexity going on here. Okay, it might be the destructor. We can safely remove that. It'll still crash after a bit, but we'll see a few frames before it does. That's interesting. I know why that's happening because once it's, I've made it not delete the components because it looks like the corruption is happening in the. Well, actually, there's two problems there. The first one is, obviously it seems to be crashing as soon as it hits the destructor, meaning that something about this logic up here is wrong. But additionally, the curtain's not moving at all. Let's set a really short timer and let's see what happens. Yeah, the reason it's going so fast is that it's not deleting the old timers, and as a consequence, it's just making an absolute mountain of tiny timers. Okay, so we have another issue here. Oh, we've already... Yeah, I'm going to get rid of the dynamic length as that's no longer required. That's going to remove some complexity. Any more? Don't think so. Okay, we're getting an immediate crash, which is fun. And same goes for that. So we're doing something wrong here. Let's see. So we're making room for this timer. So we're... Yeah, we're starting from 1 before the end. So if we've got 4, we're starting from index 3, and then we're going back until we hit the space where we're going to put it. So we're putting it at 1, we're going back. So we're going like 3, 2, 1. And then we're counting backwards. And then each time we're counting backwards, we're then looking at the next one on the list, and we are then moving each item up 1 item. Right? That makes sense. And then we're creating a component, we're filling in that slot, the slot we just opened up. Oh, no, we're not. No, we're not. We're doing it wrong. Ah. That might be one of our crashes. Nope, that's not it. Maybe if I just keep clicking refresh, it'll work eventually. Okay, so if we're inserting a timer at or before where we're currently iterating, which is actually going to be the next one we're iterating over. Hang on, just thinking. It really hurts. Let's get rid of the destroy, just because I felt that might be at fault. So it is crashing immediately now. Okay. Why would this be immediately crashing? Oh, hang on. I've just realized. Ah, I know why it's crashing. So this is really complicated. Well, sort of. This is an unsigned integer, right? This is initially 0. No, wait, that can't be it. Yeah, so I was just thinking, this is initially 0. If we're subtracting 1 from it, it can't go negative. It'd be wrapping all the way back around to, like, you know, not quite infinity, but as close as we can get. But that can't be the case. It'd be guarded by this. It can't possibly hit this if this is 0. And actually, it was fine to have the count in there because we're always... No, it wasn't. Ah! I'm losing my mind. And, hang on. This is the next issue. This should have been this. Ah. Now, a problem with it... So I'm just trying to think too much to speak right now. Yeah, this solution of having this global variable that you kind of like adjust from everywhere is horrendous, and I highly advise you do not ever try this. So the question is, where in this is it actually hitting an index out of bounds? Because where could that be? Just gonna put a note here to check if this is right when I can think more straight. So if this is wrong, this won't be causing a crash. It'll just make the timer inaccurate. Okay, index out of bounds. Where could we possibly be out of bounds here? This definitely fits in here. It can't be this. Maybe it's some of this manipulation of this timer component index. Possibly. I should get rid of this. It will make the loop. It will make the timing inaccurate, but it might be this. No, in fact, we're not calling the destructor, so it's definitely not that. My God, what is causing this? Okay, let's comment all of this out, because that will tell us for sure if it's happening in the kind of constructor or the loop. It's happening inside the constructor, whatever it is. So it's happening when we're assigning these over. So this timer component index is somehow ending up as an invalid value. Somehow. Are these definitely the right length? Yes, they all are. What happens if I don't increment the length? Does that do anything? Okay, that doesn't quite make sense, but okay. Let's have a look at all the places that we get stuff out of arrays. Is there anything super obvious and doing wrong here? So it can't be that this is 0. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this loop where it shuffles the whole array down, as it might be happening there. But we're halfway through the stream. I was really happy to have this working by now. Okay, it's definitely happening in here. We're definitely encountering some kind of state corruption or something in here. So we're somehow flying off the end of the array when starting from the count -1. So we need to move towards the end of the... Does that need to be -2? No, it's not that. So we're starting... Sorry, I'm just having to really think about this, as this is a this is a source of great perplexement, as you may be able to tell. So basically what we have here is we have a list of all of the data for the timers. We have the callbacks executed when they finish. We have the IDs of their associated components, and we have the numbers of frames before they're supposed to kind of like present. So we are hang on a second, we're making room for one. So we're starting from the end. We're starting from the final component. So we're taking the quantity, we're minusing off 1 because we start at 0. So if we have, say, 5 components, we're starting at component 4. And then we're working our way back until we hit the slot that we're going to be putting this into. So we're going, if we're putting an item into slot 1 and we have 5 components, we're going 4, 3, 2, 1. And each time we are basically taking the slot that we're putting things into. Sorry, the slot that we're taking things from, working out where the next slot is, we're adding 1 to it, and then we're moving each item down by 1. So yeah, it was the case that if I remove this, it doesn't crash, right? Yeah, so it doesn't crash. So if I remove all of these, bear in mind the compiler will probably get rid of that. Does it still crash? No. So if I put one of these back in, Hasn't crashed, but appears to have entered an infinite loop. Okay. But all these are the exact same quantity, and we're using the exact same indices for each one of these. Hmm. Hmm. Why would that be causing a crash? We don't do anything to mutate. Let's just switch this over to exact match mode. We don't do anything that could possibly mutate this in here, do we? No. And we break as soon as we found the place we were going to put it, so it can't possibly be coming out of this with the wrong value. And if it reaches the end, well, that's when we're extending it anyway, so... Hang on a second. I don't think this is the case, but it might be kind of like a C minutia thing that I've kind of missed out on. Is it possibly incrementing when we've broken? I don't think it would, because that would make no sense, but that might be what's happening. No. I was going to say, that would make no sense, so I'm guessing that's not what happens. This is why programming streams are the worst, because you spend most of it just like staring at like the code going, why doesn't this work? Takes one of the most boring jobs in the world and like tries to turn it into entertainment, which is just not going to happen unless you're incredibly entertaining. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to like have a Jonathan Blow style rage today. Maybe next week, who knows? Okay, all right. So I guess the next thing we can do is we can check this value. Is it greater than the maximum length of the timer queue? I don't think it's going to be, but go check it. It's possible we have some kind of underflow situation or something. No. So it's not that. This is only happening when we have two timers. So if we have more than one, so if we have more than two timers in there, something's gone wrong. And I'm just going to remove the code in here that adds the subsequent timers just so we don't get that situation. Yeah, that unused function thing is so annoying. I might turn it off at some point. Or demote it back to a warning. Okay, so it's definitely still seeing the issue. And we're not seeing a what in there, so it's definitely putting it into the second slot. I really wish I had the ability to like, write out exactly what's going on here rather than just being able to sort of like poke in the dark. So we know it's definitely not going out of bounds here. Let's just get rid of all this just in case the destructor is somehow being called. It's not impossible. All right, okay, it's somehow happening in here, somehow. Let's check. Oops. I'm assuming it's when it hits this code. Okay, we're hitting that. Good. And then we're hitting this. Okay. And it should only ever be hitting this at the moment with the data we've given it, where this is 0, right? It should only ever be moving stuff out of the first slot because we've only got 2 items. So is it doing that? It's not. Hang on. Because that should be... Okay, we've definitely got something going on here. So... a timer index isn't 0. We're somehow working on something that isn't the first item, but there should only be 1. So there should only ever be 2. How's that happening? We're starting at 0. We're going until we hit the... So we should only ever have... Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah, we should only ever be in the very first item at that point. There should only be 1, so we should only be getting to the first one. So if we're incrementing this, my brain, So yeah, so we're starting at 0, putting a first one in, so there should only be 1, so this loop should only ever be hit with an index of 0. Are we definitely hitting... Yeah, so we're never incrementing that number beyond 1. So we're never getting to the point at which we've inserted a second timer into the queue. So this should never be greater than 0. But as we're about to demonstrate, it somehow is. So, oh no, it's not. Huh? What? Let's put that back in there. Did I get that right? Yeah. Let me just double check. That's definitely being hit. No, it's not being hit. Was I imagining it? Okay, so we're definitely working on slot 0 at the time. And that therefore means that the next slot must be 1. I have to watch the VOD back for that big. Something happened there and I didn't notice. Oh wait, there it is. We hit something there. Okay, are we somehow getting slot 1? That wouldn't make any sense, but I guess it's possible. Is it wrapping around to max file? I wish I had a simple way of getting the value out of here, but I don't really. Okay, that's a... Wait, what? Let me just change the message in that. This is definitely updating. Definitely got a timer count of 0. How can we how can the... What's going on here? What on earth is happening? So we're starting from a count of -1, right? Sorry. Right. I'm trying to wrap my brain around this. It's not quite computing yet. So the queue has 1 item in it, meaning that timer component index must be 0 at this point, right? Let's just verify that's true. Right, so we're trying to put something into the first slot, and then somehow we're ending up moving an item to not just the end, but the end of all possible numbers. So we must somehow be rolling around. Ah! I see how it's happening. Right. This is... We're trying to stop at the exact index that we're... Yeah, so to give a better example, this would only happen if you were replacing the first item in the list. So if you had... I bet if I went in here and I made this 15, probably wouldn't crash in the same way. Yeah. So, right, so what's happening there... Imagine you have 5 buckets, okay? And we want to make room for, at the very start. So we want to make bucket 5, bucket 6, bucket 4, bucket 5, whatever. We want to move them all up by 1. Now, what that means is, because we can't actually move the buckets, we're going to move the contents. We have to start at the last bucket and move its contents to the one after it and keep going back through the list until we get back to the start. That means that we have to end at 0, right? We have to include 0 in that list of movements because we're trying to move the first bucket's content forwards. But then the thing is, if you're like keeping a count of which bucket you're looking at, you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. It can't then go to -1 because it's an unsigned integer. So it actually wraps all the way back around to like 4 billion something and then tries to move bucket 4 billion and something. Which isn't going to work because we don't have 4 billion buckets. We have like 64. So possible solutions here. Not ideal, but we can basically manually... Because at the moment, the loop check kind of happens before before it decrements the number, whereas we want it to happen kind of after. So what we can do is... This isn't kind of ideal as we're like really mangling our for loop here. I can break out of it there. Is that going to break anything? Like if I'm... I'm not sure it's going to. Try to get some basic scenarios here. If I had 5 buckets starting at 4, I don't think there's ever going to be a case where it should skip. There's never going to be a case where it should skip the first one. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, that's no longer crashing, so we might have found the cause of our issue there. Next up, let's get it working, let's get it like all commented back in. Okay, infinite loop, that's not great, but we might have an idea of where that came from. Because at the moment we're not currently destroying the components. This has been an annoying bug. Okay, it worked once, and the game hasn't crashed because our mouse cursor is still working, so we can probably comment all this back in, and it might work? Maybe? Oh, wait, that one's flapping in the breeze. We can put this back in. That seems to be working. We have multiple timers working together in harmony. Oh my god. What a trial. Oh. So next up, I'm going to get the other curtain going as well, just so we get a bit more chaos. Yeah, see if we can crash this. Let's just put a bit more kind of stress and load on it, see if it blows up. So we've got in whole words mode. Then we're going to copy all of this and give it a slight adjustment. Could use find replace, to be honest. This is one of the very few cases I'll probably get away with it. I've got to do the imports as well though, so here they are. Did I make right-handed ones? I don't think I did. Make them in a second if I didn't. No, I didn't. Yeah, so it's like failed at compile. This is one of the reasons I actually want to generate code from assets, is that if you do something like this where your code and your assets don't match up, you get a build time error. Very nice. So next up, we need to... This looks like my component system's actually working, which actually genuinely surprises me. I wasn't expecting that to kind of, well, work. It seems to be recycling them out the pool correctly, which is just... I'm kind of shocked that's actually working, to be honest. Okay. Again, we're going to make new curtains. Probably also make some other versions of it, so when like when the angel kind of bursts through the window, it really kind of pushes the curtains around and they kind of settle into kind of like a breeze. So let's hide the idle one, and we've kind of like pushed the bottom out because yeah, the bottom tends to have the least weight on it. It tends to move the most freely, but in this case, it's going to be up against like the cabinet or something. And the top also tends to bow out, I'm guessing, because you tend to get like a pocket of air trapped under here, right? And so that'll do for A, and then I'm going to make a B. And what we're going to do for that, let's make it a bit less pushed out down there. A bit more come down there. That'll do. So at that point, we can unhide everything we want to be included. Very good. Do a build. Should work. Should work. It's not working. What have I done wrong? Done something wrong. What have I done? What have I done? What have I done here? This isn't the kind of failure I was expecting. you can kind of see like, just thinking back to this timer issue, you can see why C programs quite often blow up in such just unpredictable and wild ways, or they get data corruption stuff. You see how things like, I know that Pokemon Gen 1 wasn't written in C, it's written in assembler, but it has like similar issues where if you do something wrong, it quite often does like totally illogical things as a consequence, like the whole missing node glitch and things like that. There is obviously a logic to them, but not one that's obvious. So I'm just going to get rid of this curtain and see what happens. Please compile. Thank you. Okay, it definitely disappears. We're definitely actually placing it. So there's two possibilities here. This might be a timer queue issue, or it might be a mesh queue issue. So I'm going to try and roll out the mesh queue issue by making it animate both curtains in tandem in the same event. See what happens. Okay, we can roll out a mesh queue issue because that's definitely animating there. Yes, this is another timer queue issue. I was kind of hoping I was done with those. Yeah, that's now stopped moving. Now it does move very quickly at the beginning, which implies that the initial timer does work. It's a subsequent timer that doesn't. So is it maybe? Is it maybe doing something a bit wrong when it comes to inserting it to the queue? It's finding something with the exact same index that it should be pushing the rest of the queue out. But it doesn't seem to be. But it doesn't seem to be going wrong in a way that actually looks, you know, wrong. It's not crashing or anything. So what happens if I make this one go first? Does it still sort of twitch after a few frames? Oh, that's interesting. Now this one's working and this one's not. So it seems whichever one goes first actually sort of wins. Okay. If I make it go later, it wins. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so one of the things that gets kind of complicated here is the fact that so I think one of the things that might be generating an issue here is that we actually have two timers executing on the exact same frame. There might be some edge case with this where that isn't handled correctly. So starting on timer 0, and then we're going until we reach the end, but we're never incrementing, and the reason is we should be removing them from the queue at the exact same time. So we come into the component destroy. If we're removing a timer below where we are, then decrement. So we should be moving the rest of the queue. And I think that's moving down, sort of compacting the queue when you remove a timer. That must be working, otherwise 2 wouldn't be working. What's going wrong here? In fact, I'm just going to commit my fixes up until now because we've got it closer to working. And this also gives me a quick chance to review and make sure I haven't commented anything out, because I might have commented something out and forgotten about it. One of the very nice things about writing code like this is that this is wholly deterministic, you know? This doesn't rely on any kind of like system timer, any kind of third-party timer or anything like that. It should always act the same on every platform. So if it has a bug, it'll always have that bug on every platform, which is good because it means that every platform will behave the same. Probably. So first question is it ever executing two in the same frame? Just going to count the number of invocations during this kind of like iteration. If it hits two, then we know it did something. That's interesting. We don't have an error message. What? What? How did it hit an unreachable without posting an error message? What? So we know it's definitely executing twice. It's somehow not getting an error message out. That's very strange. What's happening there? I guess it's possible the compiler is doing something weird with this. Can I set volatile on this so it definitely... I seem to remember that like volatile basically means it never kind of leaves things in registers, right? It always kind of dumps to and from the variable. It's annoying. Okay, all right, I'm gonna have to get rid of the const on there because it's breaking things. And then can I forcibly discard? Can I forcibly discard the const? Doesn't look like I can. Anyway, I should put a to-do in there in any case. Oh, of course, I changed the header file, didn't I? Oh, damn it. Faster, please. All right. So we know it's executing two of them on the same frame. But something's going wrong and one of them isn't re-entering the queue. And this is happening like immediately, isn't it? What happens if I go in here and I make these like really long? Like if I make these like 60 and this one like 120. Okay, it's definitely hitting it. That's definitely the cause, is it's definitely hitting both of those at the same time in the same loop. And it's executing one of them, but one of them isn't managing to get into the queue for some reason. Okay, and we're at index 0 because we're looping for them to execute them. So this should, given that we're going to be inserting at 0, this should be pushing the queue along. So I think that is. Yeah, that would make sense. It would be executing it anyway. Okay, so something wrong with the destructor. Is it deleting the one we've just added somehow? We're basically looping through the entire list. We're trying to find the component that we're destroying. And yeah, that should be fine as well, because even if it was making a new component inside, what I was thinking was, if the timer executed and then, and what we're saying here, if the timer executed, created a new component in the process. Yeah, that should be fine, because the timer would actually be created after the fact. Yeah, I think because it might be reusing the component ID. That's entirely possible here, but I don't think that's the issue. I was wondering if it might be like deleting the item from the queue twice because it happens to have the same component ID, but I think that's happening. What is happening? Okay, so if we're deleting one that hang on. If we're deleting one that is before where we've iterated to, then we need to shuffle the iterator down. That's fine. If it's the same, we don't, which again is fine. And we then reduce the total number of timers by 1, which again is fine. We then start at the index that we're deleting from, and then we stop before the end, and we're basically copying from the next one. So I think that's fine. I think this will actually break things if I do this. Oh no, that fixed it. No, it didn't. As soon as the man started rotating, it broke that one. Ah, damn it. Ah. Okay, next up. Let's stop the old man rotating at all. Let's just set this like really high. I just want to see, do these actually remain in sync? Because that might be an issue that we have. No, only one of them continues moving. Okay, let's get rid of that timer for now. Is it an issue to do with having 2 timers with the exact same duration? No. It's an issue caused by having 2 timers with the exact same duration while there's also a 3rd timer. Because those are actually working perfectly in sync. They're not drifting at all. Now this 3rd timer is like way out in the future. It's just way ahead. And in this case, it seems like the 2nd timer is winning. So what could cause that? What could cause that to happen? So let's think about the sequence of events here. So we set 2 timers, right? And on the same frame, the first one executes, right? And as part of that, let's call these like A1, A2 as well. So we've got like the first instance of it, execute A1. So that creates A2. And then we delete A1. And then we should be executing A2, which is happening, isn't it? It is definitely, it's executing them both at least once. So it's executing B1, which creates B2, and deletes B1. However, when we come back around, for whatever reason, it only executes B2. So the question is creating B2 deleting A2, or is deleting B1 also deleting A2. I hate programming. It's not the worst kind of puzzle, because at least the puzzle was designed by someone who you can blame. Usually programming is just your own damn fault. So unfortunately, it's not like we can just skip out and delete them to see if deleting them is the problem. Let's figure out what the IDs would actually be in this case. So we've got timer 0 as the protagonist. Yeah, the can spin is 0. So A1 would end up being 1. And B1 would end up being 2. A2 would end up being 3. Right? And then in executing, at the time of executing B1, hang on, no, this isn't true. This isn't true because the ordering. Okay, let's think about this differently. So we should introduce, like, the spin will initially be 0, but then because it's a long time in the future, it gets pushed out. So when we add A1, let's put the numbers at the start, that pushes the spin out, and that's definitely working. We then introduce B1, which I think might actually end up slightly in front, because it stops searching the list as soon as it finds one that's kind of further on down. So we would actually end up with this. So these are actually the wrong way around. So you execute B1, and it's going to create B2 at slot 2, which then pushes spin out to 3. Then we delete B1, which should, in theory, make a gap like that. And then when we execute A1, it should make A2, which again, because if it matches, it goes first, means that it should do that. So it should push B2 back out. Now we're pretty confident that the code that pushes back out works. And the reason that we're pretty confident about that is that the spin does eventually happen. So the question is, what's special about the about this case here where the deletion wouldn't work? Well, so we go around this once and we destroy that, we do that, which is execute and make a new one. So at that point, what would happen here? Because we'd have B1, A1, yep, and it would make a B2. Okay, so we're currently working on this one. We delete it. So does deletion properly reduce the index? It shouldn't reduce the index in this case, because deleting the component because the sort of loop index is at 0. So this code should not be hit during that initial kind of run. Yeah, this code isn't hit. That's completely expected. That's what we wanted to happen. Well, wanted to not happen. So then, okay, hang on. Yeah, we made B2, move that down. We should now have that. We then execute B2. No, hang on, no. We execute A1, which creates a new record there, and then deletes itself. So it should end up there. Why isn't it? It seems like every single part of this equation is either, you know, it seems like every part of this is either not being hit at all, or we're hitting it and we're pretty sure it works. Let's just keep putting bits in until we can find something that only executes on the path that doesn't work. Okay, so it might be this. What's this? What's happening here? So this is when we're creating one. If we're inserting an index less than or equal to I know what's happening. I know what's happening. So, okay, let me explain this, because hopefully explaining it to you will explain it to me. So we start off with the spin, and then we insert like curtain update 1, so A1, and then we insert between the, well, actually no, we insert it there, we insert B1 there. Right, okay, and then we execute B1 first. B1 adds B2 into there, and then it gets deleted. Okay, I'm just going to test this theory. When I explained the theory, I went, no, wait, that might be wrong. There we go, that's fixed it. Yeah, it's because it was adding items. So you had like a bunch of timer queue items that are all going to execute on the same frame, right? And it was adding stuff to the front of the block that was currently executing. And then because of that, it was actually moving the pointer further on. It was moving the kind of like counter further on up the block. So I should now be able to drop that down to something ridiculous, like say 83, something like a nice and rational number that should hit any interesting bugs we might have. But left one stopped moving. So we still have bugs. I hate programming. The good news is there's only about another 10 minutes of this today. 1 second. All right, okay. So let me check something. Put that back in. It doesn't just flip which one is broken, does it? Oh no, that actually makes no difference at all. Oh. Hang on. There might be 2 bugs here and I've just fixed one of them, but not the other. Right, so protagonist is not going to be moving. Both curtains now move. If I undo the fix from earlier, I was doing scare quotes there. Does it now turn? Yes, that definitely fixes that. That definitely fixes that at least. Just having a bit of a think about why that fixes something. Because I feel like there's a different bug here that we're actually encountering. So, and I think this might just be masking it. Maybe that should be a less than, not less than equals. I was a bit unsure about that earlier. I did think it was kind of weird that there were like two sets of less than equals. No, that doesn't fix it. Ah! Okay, let's put that back in, and then let's put the protagonist actually moving back in. No, that hasn't fixed it. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's just think of this logically. So we are... That should be an equals. It should be. Yeah. So I'm just having a bit of a complete mental breakdown over here trying to figure out how this is going to work. So... 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 So let's think about this particular scenario here, because we're actually doing an insert, which actually increases the index of the it increases the index of the timer we're currently processing by 1. And then we're deleting the timer we're processing, which shouldn't do anything because we'll then process the next one in the queue. So yeah, this should be fine, as this will only be handling if we're deleting. This should never be hit. It just occurred to me. Because you should never have a timer earlier in the queue than you're currently, because if you've got to a point in the queue, if you've got to say, slot 3, there should never be anything you haven't executed behind you, because if it's before you in the queue, it should have been executed. And the only place that it really should be, and even then, you shouldn't be able to set timers before now. So this global shouldn't actually exist. It just occurred to me, this entire hack I've got to resolve a situation shouldn't be there. It just shouldn't be there. So the next thing I need to do is, at the moment I'm checking that to know whether to add an extra frame of delay to it or not, because if you're adding a timer from within the timer queue, it should add an extra frame of delay, purely so we don't, count down the frame of delay as part of the current frame. So all I need for that is a bool, and if timer component iterating is going to be false, and yeah. Yep, that's right. I'll it's going to be off string to nearly at time. I'll probably also do a bit of a test and just make sure that it's doing the exact number of frames it's supposed to be. Oh my god, my brain is actually melting after today. Right, this probably won't fix it, but it might do, given I'm going to be removing some logic that shouldn't have been there in the first place. No, it hasn't fixed it, but it has simplified it. It has removed quite a lot of, well, it has literally removed a variable, but also, you know, figuratively removed a variable too. Right, I'm doing something else very wrong here. There's something else wrong with this. I might commit that though, because we've made progress, right? Is there anything else in here that shouldn't be in here? You know, anything else in here for debugging purposes? Doesn't look like it. So that's nice. It's actually simplified the entire process quite a lot. One of the things is if I was to like come back to this later on, I'll probably be like going like, oh, what, did I do a naive implementation of this? Did I just, you know, forget to handle the fact that, you know, times can be inserted into string? It's like, no, it's just that you don't need to do any handling by complete coincidence. So yeah, so the first one is being lost as the second one gets added. So destroying a timer, we're doing the destruction first of all, which is fine. That should be fine. I wonder if it's might be doing something a bit wrong here, like say copying one of the timers down twice or something. How would I tell? How would I tell if it was executing a timer twice in the same frame? I'm just going to extend these delays out just so I can watch it more intently. To make sure that doing that didn't break everything. If I extend the delays out, I can just like make it throw on it's executed so many times. Okay, so the right curtain. Where's the right curtain? It should be executing the left curtain. Hang on, so it's going to be calling into that, and it is definitely executing it once. And it isn't executing it again. So let's count the number of invocations. Please don't make me import that. You're gonna make me import that, damn it. We're gonna fix this damn bug. We're gonna get a beautiful timer queue working just nicely. So it's never executing that a second time. Is it executing the sort of like second callback twice? I suspect we might find it's executing the right hand callback twice though. I suspect that might be what's going on. Yeah, it's executing the second one twice. So what's happening here is something is going wrong with this copy. This is kind of like array manipulation. Something is going wrong with it. It's ending up putting the same timer into 2 slots. So how is it doing that? Because it's moving forwards and it's going from the one we're deleting, it's moving forwards until it reaches the end of the list, which we've already shortened. And it's copying from the one after, so that's fine. So let's do this on some kind of paper. We've got sort of ABs. Oh, would you stop filling things in Visual Studio Code? If I want something, I'll type it. Thank you. So we're looking to delete B. So what it's doing is it's starting from the index of B, and then it's copying C into B. It's going to the next one, copying D into C, and copying E into, and we've already removed the last one. So that should be working fine. That should be working fine. The fact that it's not is interesting, but that should be working fine. And then we're returning, so it can't be the case that it's moving on to the next one on the list or something. Oh, why is it doing that? Why is it doing that? Rather than stopping at the end of the list, it's going to the maximum length of the list. And we haven't got an error case down here, so something fishy's going on here. Isn't it amazing how a short piece of code like this can have so many bugs? Okay, I'm going to scale down the spinning man a bit because it's a bit distracting. Where is our protagonist? There it is. Let's scale him down to like 0.2. That should be good. There he is. So it's definitely, did I remove the code that does the invocation check? I think I did. Why did I do that? Anyway, I'm just going to commit that as a small change. That's definitely a straight up improvement. That can't not be an improvement. So the other place that we're copying data around is when we're inserting. So again, if we've got A, B, C, D, E, and we want to insert F here, what it's doing is it's finding, say, this one here, and then it's finding the final row number. So let's just put the indices in so we can more easily kind of relate this to what's actually happening. So we're looking to insert at 1. So we've gone through the list and we found that, hey, timer B is going to happen after timer F. So we need to move everything down 1. So we start from the end -1. So we'd start at 4 because there's 5 items, -1 is 4. And each loop we are moving the items into the slot after them. So we are going, this is now 5, and 4 still contains E, and then D, C, B, and then we put a new one, F, in there. That should be working. Is there something about this loop that might not be working? There it is. Oops, that's an assignment. Yeah, it wasn't stopping when it reached the slot it wanted to stop on. It was stopping on the slot or anyone following it. Oh my God, it actually works. We have a spinning man and some flapping curtains. Oh my God. Oh, I was hoping I would get to the section where I can actually make an animated mesh component that can like take a list and then iterate through it. But my God, am I happy to stop there. Thank you very much for watching. I'm very sorry you had to suffer through this. Tomorrow at 7 p.m, we're probably going to do more stuff like this. Probably do the actual animation queue then. Maybe. We'll see. Have a great weekend.